Hi everyone. Make sure you let us know if you can hear us in the comments. I'm Sam Red, and this is Red Carpet Talk. Today, I'm lucky to be joined by Matt. Matt, say hi to everyone.
How's it going, guys? I'm Matt. Nice to meet everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, please let us know in the comments. And so today, Matt and I are going to be talking Christopher Nolan's adaptation of Homer's epic masterpiece, The Odyssey, and we'll discuss whether this movie is Nolan's best work or if something else is, and touch on the movie's Oscar chances. And at the end, we might get into some spoiler talk, but it might come up organically sooner if necessary. We'll see how it goes. That's the gist of it. Anything you want to say, Matt, before we get into it?
We can jump right into it. I'm excited for it. It's my first stream, so thanks for having me.
Um, so yeah, we we're heard loud and clear. Okay, so yeah, let's get into it. There is a lot to discuss with this movie, but we're gonna start with non-spoilers. Um, there's we're probably not going to even cover everything.
No, there's
Let's
so
just
much.
Yeah, there's so much. Let's just start with the Nolan of it all. He directed this, he wrote this, and he produced this with his wife Emma Thomas. Um, this is like his vision. Like he's the reason this movie is so effective. His choices with like the practical effects, with like the Cyclops, was being a ton about talked a ton going into the movie, and when you watch the actual movie, it's super impressive. And there's other just super insane things that he managed to pull off with like the IMAX camera that's like revolutionary technology and the production design. Without getting into spoilers, there's some magnificent stuff going on there. Matt, you're more of like a camera guy, or familiar with like, I guess like using cameras than me. I know a little bit,
Little bit, yeah.
but like, what's your take on that stuff?
They did a. I feel like there have been times in the past where Nolan, in his earlier films, something that he has struggled with has been everything just being too dark. It is kind of similar to that one Game of Thrones episode towards the end that everybody complained that it was just super dark and a lot of people had trouble seeing. I feel like some early Nolan stuff was like that, but his crew has definitely improved on that um, over time, and it's very funny to see now because that lighting is something that I work on when I do work in films. I work as a grip, so like electric kind of makes the lighting, and then the grips kind of shape and filter the lighting, and it's very like fun to pick up on that and see that now. And there has been an improvement on that in Nolan, and this movie looked gorgeous.
Some people are like it's too dark in certain scenes, but I feel like it needs to be dark in certain moments because it's just
Mhm.
such a dreary, arduous journey as a whole.
Yeah.
So you need to convey that like through the visuals. But yeah, so you think it's gorgeous and you're not complaining about the choices made there.
Yeah, and I
Well,
think the one scene that was too dark, maybe was like visually too dark, was probably the cave. But then again, that had to be dark
yeah,
because
it had to. Yeah, for sure. Um, um, are you a score person at all or no?
yes,
So Ludwig did the score for this. How does this compare to other like Ludwig scores for you?
pretty pretty high up there. The thing is, he to me he's still new and fresh, so I don't really have like a clear ranking of what I think is his best and what I think is his lowest. But he is definitely becoming more recognizable, and this is one that's like I'll remember this score and more pieces from it versus just like themes. like one single themes that he's done in certain pictures. Um, yeah, it was incredible. I was tapping my foot during this
I
one.
feel like my favorite thing he's ever done is probably the Mandalorian theme, and that might be like hot take, like one of my favorite, if not my favorite Star Wars score. I go back and forth between like that versus some of the stuff from Andor. But if you're talking like not just a theme and saying like the entire score of a project or like a movie or a TV show, I feel like Oppenheimer is probably his best work.
Yeah,
Which he worked on Nolan with, and then I think they first started working together when it came to Tenet specifically. And then, but Ludwig is still kind of early in his career. It's like he's done Star Wars, he's done like a few Oppenheimer projects, and then he did some Ryan Coogler movies.
yeah, he's got a really strong resume for being a young composer.
I feel like my take on the score, and you may disagree with this, and other people may disagree with it. I feel like the story as a whole is a familiar story, and a big point they were trying to convey is like this is a familiar story that's been passed on for centuries, but depending on who tells the story or like certain details may change to add to the entertainment factor or whatever, or just certain details may get lost in certain translations, whatever. I feel like the music felt familiar, but also new at the same time. I don't know if that makes any sense with what I'm saying.
It does, yeah.
Since the movie even touches on near the end how like music and songwriting is kind of like a form of storytelling in a way. So I feel like that was kind of like a nice little touch that the detail that the movie did with the score. Yeah. Any other thoughts on the score, or do you want to move on to like some of the performances?
There's one like specific thought that I had about the score throughout it too. It really felt like it truly you could tell it was Ludwig if you know his style and you've heard enough of his work and recognize that it was him. It really did feel like a big blend between his score with like Oppenheimer and Tenet. Tenet was very electronic, but very fast paced. And then you had like very majestic, very loud, but not very less percussion within the Oppenheimer track. And I feel like those two blended together really well to make this one.
Yeah, I mean, other people have commented on this. I don't think Ludwig used a traditional orchestra
Mm-mm.
for this score, and I think he just was trying to use as like more traditional ancient styled instruments if possible. And but it still has like a modern flair to it, even though he used like different unconventional like instrument choices, which is super compelling to me. Like the fact that he still managed to make it feel traditional but modern at the same time, that is really interesting to me. Any more to say on that topic or no?
I no, yeah, I think you said it very
Okay.
well. It was very cool too. Last thing I will say about it too, just the incorporation with the Travis Scott song into it. How did you feel that balanced the rest of his score versus the two scenes that had that Travis Scott song?
I'm like debating if it gets into spoiler territory or not, the Travis Scott song.
Yeah.
I'm should we get into it now or should we save it for later?
We can save that for later.
Okay. So the thing with sorry, I'm trying to make note to remember it for later. So the thing I want to so we can get into like the performances and like who's in the cast. There's so many people to talk about and cover. Do you want to start with Travis Scott, what you thought of him, or do you want to cover someone else first?
We can, yeah, we can start with him.
I
think No, you go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
Actually, you know what? Let's get into spoiler territory a little bit. You know what? Why? You know what? It's just coming up organically. Why not?
Why not?
Since we're talking about Travis Scott, okay. So the thing with Travis Scott is he opens the movie. So to me, to end with that song, I think he's kind of the narrator of the story being told.
Mm-hmm.
And so it makes sense to end with him. And the movie ends by touching on how you honor past storytelling and what's been written via song. So to me, ending with a song with like spoken lyrics felt like a natural evolution and progression to like the theme to the movie thematically with what it was trying to say about storytelling as a whole. Does what I'm saying make sense and sound clear? Since
Yeah.
when you get into like the storytelling aspect of the movie as a whole, you can go down a very trippy rabbit hole since there's a lot going on there. So I don't want to like get go too far get too far ahead of myself where I'm starting to lose people already when we just started. But yeah, I feel like yeah, so to me it was like a bookend. Like it started with Travis Scott and it ended with Travis Scott. So it made the most sense to end with him and to make a point thematically, as I said before. The thing with Travis Scott and like um no one seemed to be interested in casting him because the story of the Odyssey was spread like through oral storytelling initially,
Mm-hmm.
where he would read the poems out loud, Homer, from my understanding, at like public gatherings or contests. And then those people heard the story so many times that someone became familiar enough with it that it got written down at some point. I believe that's how, if that's incorrect, someone can fact check me in the comments, but I'm pretty sure that's how it started. So Nolan wanted to honor that since he views rap as like a natural evolution to like oral storytelling because a lot
Mm-hmm.
of like, I feel like these days rap, there's a lot of mumble rap and like a lot of rap music that talks about like sex, drugs, partying, cars, whatever. But there's a lot of like socially conscious rap that talks about like real issues and like things going on in society and like hip hop in general does that. And so no one consciously chose Travis Scott to like make a point about that, of just like it being a natural evolution to oral storytelling, which is how the story got passed on in the first place.
Right.
So I like Travis Scott, and I feel like him being in the story made sense thematically. What about you?
Yeah, it didn't bug me like it bugged most people, and I think he was utilized in it perfectly well.
Yeah, like I a face, a
He was
fleet.
a face, and he had probably what he popped up maybe twice
Yeah,
and was there for maybe 30 seconds each time. Like you said, you made me realize though. I never realized it that it kind of put like a face to the narrator that was like singing the poem of the story.
yeah, exactly. Um, But yeah, I like that opening line. He says, "A
Mm-hmm.
face, a fleet, a war, a man, a thought, a trick." And then I love the editing during that sequence as well, where you see like the flashes of like Helena Troy and like the horse and all that stuff, and it like teases all of it before you fully see it fully realized. That was really cool. That was just a cool way to open the movie and like get the audience hyped
Oh yeah,
quickly. But yeah,
it's like
so
everything was foreshadowed in that first 10
yes,
seconds.
exactly. Well said. Um, how about we move on from Travis Scott, even though it opens with him, and then get into the star of the movie, Matt Damon.
Yeah.
What did you think of Matt Damon?
I think he's locked for his Oscar, just like a lot of the people that we listen to are saying. My most memorable scene from him, I would say, would be when they tied him to the post and he listened to
The sirens.
yes, when he listened to the siren song. That I think was his most powerful scene right there. I feel like I've never seen him get very strongly emotional like that. Like you've seen him yell and scream a lot, but I feel like I haven't seen him break down and cry like that. And he did a good job like making me feel uncomfortable, especially when they muted everything that he was hearing. But besides just that scene alone, Matt Damon was incredible.
My favorite scene of Matt Damon, or just moments with Matt Damon, is, and I don't know if this tells me, like, says something about myself of what parts of the story I'm more interested in. Mm-hmm. But I feel like when you get to, like, the second half of the movie, or I guess the third act of the movie, where he's presenting himself as the beggar, that's the part of the movie where I'm like, you just see how this whole journey has just totally worn him down, and he has the super long beard. And I read somewhere that like no one wanted him to actually like grow that facial hair for real. Mm-hmm. So he like, it took him like a year to grow it or something like that. Like it's crazy. But that's the scenes for me, or that stand out the most with Matt Damon. And you just see like not just like how much the journey has worn him down, but also Troy and like the Trojan horse of it all. And there's a lot to unpack there, especially when you get into the third act of the movie. There's so much to dissect with that. Mm-hmm. But I like Matt Damon. My favorite Matt Damon performance is still Talented Mr. Ripley. But like, is it a bad performance from him this movie? No. But like you said earlier, like he's definitely a contender for Best Actor right now, and is most likely going to get a nom at this moment, unless like more people get into the actor race. Odysseus is a very complicated character.
He is,
and it's like, what do you think are his flaws?
Well, I think it really strongly, like the first half of the story really strongly shows you, or at least wants to try to tell you, that he's like this big, brave, selfless hero continuing this journey. But he's not really as selfless as all of his people see him as.
I don't think he views himself that. Well, actually, no, it's a little bit complicated, since there is a part of him. The word I don't use this word a lot in my common day-to-day life, but the word that like comes up a lot when it comes to the Odyssey is hubris. Mm-hmm. He has a lot of ego, and it's like from the win of the Trojan horse, and after that he's kind of reckless, honestly, and you can argue whether or not his recklessness is the cause for the rest of the events that unfold or not, specifically the Cyclops, or if they were already doomed from the get-go before that. That can be debated, but like you can't argue he was reckless a little bit when it came to the whole Cyclops stuff. And I feel like there was another point I was about to say of, he has a lot of hubris, and that's an important part of the story, I think, thematically, not just with him, but just like other male characters, especially in the story. That's an important theme thematically, of like a lot of characters, whether it be Odysseus or others, being in the pursuit of glory, and just like, and their ego kind of gets in the way of that a bit. it's oh sorry, going back to the point I was saying, he's like simultaneously selfish but also self-aware, which is why he's a complicated character, because he is selfish enough to accidentally put his soldiers in danger, but he's self-aware enough, as you see in like the second half of the movie, to be like, I'm a flawed person and to feel guilty. So it's like, it's not as simple as like, he's a flawed guy, he's selfish, and he's not aware of it at all. I feel like if he was not aware of it, you would hate him. But because he's somewhat aware of it, you kind of like feel for him to some degree. Yeah. So it's like it's complicated because of that. I don't know. Do you view him as a hero after everything that goes down?
I think he had a little bit of redemption in sailing back to go and honor the men that he didn't honor along his journey. And it's like you had said before about putting his men in danger. Like, yeah, that was another massive flaw of his too. Just like he had the logic in his plans, and like he was smart, and he had the correct logic in pursuing and pushing forward with his plans, but he was not thinking about, you know, the safety of his men, the workload that it's going to bring. He was clearly blinded to the exhaustion that was being brought on them until it was verbally addressed to him at one point.
Yeah. Those are good points. It's interesting because I feel like you, in the first half of the movie, you see the way that like John Barenthal's character talks about what went down with the Trojan horse, and he obviously views himself and Odysseus as a whole as a hero. But then it's interesting that Odysseus in the second half of the movie, like all that gets deconstructed. That idea of him being a hero, but you do see his men question him throughout the movie as well, to some degree, even before you get to the third act.
What was Yusuf's character name again?
What was who?
Yusuf's character, the guy that Yusuf played, who's like Odysseus's right hand man.
Himesh Patel's character.
Yeah, or Patel. I'm sorry, not Yusuf. Patel.
I am not familiar with all the characters 100%. Yeah, but what I'm looking up right now, it says his name is Eurylochus, I think is his name. Himesh Patel's character.
Yeah, but
like, it doesn't roll off the tongue as easy as some of the other characters.
Oh, right. A lot of those names. Me and my
roommate were struggling. Character? Sorry.
He like Odysseus didn't realize like the workload that was being put on his men until he had to address him like, dude, we are exhausted. Like, look around. Like, we need to settle on this land.
I guess another part of Odysseus, before we get to Himesh Patel's character, since you kind of touched on Himesh Patel's character a little bit, that I want to ask, what was your takeaway, since you talked about the siren scene being your favorite part of Matt Damon's performance, what was your takeaway on what he truly wants?
I struggled to figure that out. Me too. And I started struggling even more because it's when Calypso had told him like he had figured out, or not when Calypso had told him, when he was explaining to Calypso everything that he had seen from the song, and he had said like, they had told me that I truly don't want to go home. then that's when I was like, okay, bro, then what do you want?
I think it's so interesting with the what since it implies that he doesn't actually want to go home, that scene. I think something that they could be saying is that I've seen some people interpret is that he there's a adrenaline and a visceral energy that he feels from fighting in a war.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of what he truly wants to some degree, is to just keep fighting forever and forever. And even the whole journey he's going on, he's fighting battle after battle in some sort of way.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like there's a part of him that feels a purpose or a sense of purpose from fighting rather than just sitting around at home being king.
Yeah.
So that's like one interpretation of it that I've seen. But then it's like, it's so interesting, especially once you get to like the end of the movie, because when you get to the end of the movie, he is technically home. He gives up the throne to his son, and then him and Penelope go west to honor the soldiers. Mm-hmm. So it's like there is a part of him, I don't know, since it kind of implies he never really wanted to fight in the war in the first place, but felt obligated to and just wanted to run away forever into exile. So maybe that's what he truly wanted, is to never have to fight in the war in the first place. But now that he has, he can't really escape that. I don't know. It's very complicated. I don't know. I don't think it's an easy answer.
Like if he knew if he knew if he went home, then there was just going to be more responsibility.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like he's just tired, and he knew that there would be no rest if he went home. That makes sense. Yeah.
And he kind of, when he's at home, even though everyone's honoring him as a hero, mm-hmm. It's hard to escape those thoughts of like knowing, like, maybe I did something really bad. Like that's a hard thing to like really escape. And when you're sitting at home and like back then there's no technology or anything, so you don't really have distractions. He's just sitting on the throne probably like all day. I mean, he probably has certain obligations as king that he has to do, but like there's a lot of downtime where you're just alone with your thoughts, having to think and replay things constantly. So yeah, I don't know.
He wasn't ready to be unemployed yet.
Anything else to say about Damon or Odysseus, or do you want to talk about Himesh Patel a bit?
Himesh Patel might have been one of my favorite performances, and I'm kind of upset that the marketing didn't shine on him a little bit.
It's so interesting to see like what performance people are like gravitating towards too. Mm-hmm. Like, because I agree with you, like the marketing mentioned certain people over others. And for me, my person that I felt that way about, that I didn't know was in the movie, who I was like, oh, he did a good job, was Logan Marshall Green. With he was kind of like Robert Pattinson's second guy, like the way Himesh Patel was kind of Odysseus's right hand man. So yeah, Logan Marshall Green, he's the guy who like near the end of the movie, he knows where the weapons are and he's trying to like get it through the hole.
Yes.
Like,
okay.
So, but I'm with you. I always like Himesh Patel when he shows up in something. And
he's in a lot of Nolan stuff.
Yeah, Tenet. So I didn't realize until like looking this up, I didn't realize that character is technically Odysseus's brother-in-law. From what I heard, I could be wrong, but then I'm like, where's the sister if that's the case?
That's a good question.
I was just like,
maybe that's more so of something from the book.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I thought that was an interesting detail. Since I've seen other like iterations of the Odyssey in the past, and I was like, I don't remember there being a sister, and I'm like, maybe there was, and I just don't remember. But I don't know. It's just a weird thing. But yeah, but I like those secondary performances. Like for you, you were saying Himesh Patel. For me, like Logan Marshall Green.
Yeah.
That's another one who was like apparently him and Mia Goth's character were twins, and I was like, "What?" I was like, "I did not realize that." I was like,
That's
okay.
another one too. I didn't even realize Mia Goth was in this.
Yeah, she's like Robert Pattinson. Well, actually, before saying Robert Pattinson, she's like the maid of Penelope Anne Hathaway's character.
Mm-hmm.
And then she kind of is like disloyal. And that's kind of like, for those not familiar with the story, that's kind of like a like a reveal when they show you that she's actually kind of has like a romantic relationship with Robert Pattinson's character, and she's being disloyal to Penelope. And then Logan Marshall Green's character, I guess, is like Odysseus' servant as well, and he's also being disloyal. And both of them are kind of like sneaking around with Robert Pattinson's character. So yeah. That's what I don't know. When you get to the end of the movie, I feel it's very satisfying when you see them get their come up and it's that group of people, like Mia Goth and Logan Marshall Green and Corey Hawkins with the arrow and Robert Pattinson.
That was my. Did anybody clap in your theater during
Yeah,
that?
for sure. Yeah. What did you think of him?
Logan Marshall Green?
No, I was saying Corey Hawkins.
Oh, Corey Hawkins. That was another one. He was the next one that I wanted to bring up that I really enjoyed his as well. I had forgot too that he was in this as well, but I think it was the day before I saw it or 2 days before. Someone on Harloff's show had brought up his performance and said that they really liked it. I was like, oh, great. I love him. I can't wait to see him in this. Yeah, he delivered. I really liked him as Dr. Dre in Straight Outta Compton, and just from there, I've followed him a little bit from that, and yeah, I just don't understand why a lot of the, like you said, the secondary actors or the secondary characters, like I think a lot of them did a lot better than the A-listers in this movie.
I actually agree with that to some degree. But I'm with you. My theater was clapping for Corey Hawkins with the arrow, and then also I think for the rest of them getting their comeuppance as well. But we kind of talked about him a little bit. Robert Pattinson, some people, they're like Robert Pattinson might be their like favorite performance of the movie. When I saw the trailers, I don't think it was the initial trailer, but like the second or third trailer, I was like, oh, I really like what Robert Pattinson is doing here. But it's hard because the drama also came out early this year, and that was another really solid performance.
I haven't seen that yet.
I have a similar issue with like Anne Hathaway. People are like, this is her best performance. She should get nominated. And I'm like, but she was so good in Mother Mary. So it's like, it's hard for me to view this as like her best performance of the year. Same with Pattinson.
I do think this was up there, though, as one of Anne Hathaway's best performances. I haven't seen Mother Mary either, though.
Yeah, she just is having a solid year. She has like 5 movies coming out this year in total.
She's great.
A lot of people are saying like she's like she toes the line between like being theatrical a little bit, and like there's some scenes where it's like you can tell she's like kind of getting a little like tantrumy, but then she like holds herself back enough when necessary. Like it's a hard line to balance.
Yeah.
And she adds more to the character than what some people think the source material gives. Since some people think like the women are not really fully fleshed out. So, but some people feel like when you cast actors like Anne Hathaway, they add more nuance to it, but also Nolan tried to give her more to do from what I've been hearing. So
Yeah, I thought she was excellent.
yeah, she is. I liked at first when I heard she was announced as Penelope. I'm like, I don't know how I feel about this, since like 1 or 2 years ago, maybe even more, since I have no sense of time. Ray Fiennes did The Return, which focuses only on the return part of the Odyssey, which is so late into the story. And
Yeah.
I think Juliette Binoche plays Penelope in that version. So I had like those two in my head since I just saw them so recently. And I was like, I don't know about Matt Damon. I don't know about Anne Hathaway. Um, but they ended up selling me once I like saw them. Um, what do you think about like Anne Hathaway and Robert Pattinson? Do you think like he's too young for the character he's playing, or do you think it works?
Well, how old is the character supposed to be that he's playing?
I don't know what age he's supposed to be exactly, but I've heard some people who are like he's too young to be pursuing like being king and marrying her. But I'm like, I feel like you're never too young to be power hungry. That's my take on it. Of just like, or
Yeah,
like,
and the thing about Robert Pattinson too, I think just because of the reputation, like I think he's broken out of being the vampire boy from Twilight, and he is, he's what's the word that he's solidified himself as like a very like phenomenal entertainer. But what I don't think what he has escaped is like some sort of age thing. Like he's going to be like a forever young person. Like it's kind of similar, for example, like what my girlfriend says about Sadie Sink. Like she's a big Jean Grey fan, and she's really nervous about the fact if she's playing Jean in Spider-Man or not, because she's like, to me, like Sadie Sink is forever like going to look like a child to me because she started watching Sadie Sink so young. And I think that's how it is with Robert Pattinson and all that stuff too. It's like he's playing a 26 or 27-year-old Bruce Wayne, and I think he's like 42 or 43.
he's definitely like either late 30s or like early 40s.
I'm pretty sure. I think he's like minimum. I think he's 41, 42 minimum. But that's the thing. I think he's just viewed as like a forever young actor. He's gonna have young
You're
roles
right.
for
You're
a
right though. He's
while.
40. That's
Oh,
crazy.
he's 40.
That's crazy that Robert Pattinson is 40
Yeah.
at this point, and it's like, um, that's so crazy. I'm like that you're like he's 40 and I'm like really? I'm like I thought and I was like so certain he was like late 30s, and then now I'm looking that up. I'm like you're right. He kind of does have that problem a little bit, and I didn't even
He's playing a
since
young Bruce Wayne.
when you said it, I was like what you're saying more so applies to me to Tom Holland and Zendaya, but like and I was
Oh,
nervous when I saw Tom Holland was cast as the son in this movie, since I was like, he's kind of just Peter. Sorry, I almost said Peter Stark. You know what I meant, Peter Parker.
this version is Peter Stark, and I'm glad this new one's moving away from Peter Stark.
I feel like some people are saying Tom Holland's role is kind of weaker than everyone else. I feel like he's a purposely weak character, though. Like
I've
it's
been
kind of the
hearing that.
point.
You mean like he like the character himself like is weak, or like the performance is weak?
Like physically and like mentally compared to Odysseus. Like nobody can compare to Odysseus, and I feel like that's kind of the point.
Yeah,
So it's like he has to hold himself back a bit, and it's like we know he's a good actor. We see like scenes like Infinity War where he's just like crying and bawling his eyes out, and it's so convincing and so effective. So we know he has that in him.
yeah,
But
he's
it's just
amazing.
like the point is no one could ever compare to Odysseus and how strong he is physically and mentally. Is my takeaway from it. So it's like you can't steal the light too much as that character.
Right.
So I feel like he has a tricky job, and he pulled it off for me at least. But
He's
yeah.
also young too. Like the character. He's a really young character. He's not fully developed yet. Like he's like Atreus from God. I don't know if you're familiar with God of War, but like he's Kratos' son, and Odysseus, Kratos, like very very powerful, and then Telemachus and Atreus, like they're just not there yet. But as far as his performance, I have heard people say like I thought Tom Holland was kind of mid in this. Like I disagree. I don't think he like gave to me like a groundbreaking performance, but like I thought he was excellent in it. I do think he deserves at least an Oscar nomination for best supporting actor. I don't think he'll win, but I think he deserves to be recognized a little more for it.
Yeah, I don't know if that's gonna happen or not. But I feel like I think he was good in this movie,
I do too.
regardless of what people say. And it was interesting seeing him trying to figure out what was happening to his father and him traveling to Troy, and then you see John Barenthal's like version of events versus Matt Damon's later on, as I said before. Like I just and to me my favorite scene with Tom Holland, actually now that I think about it and I'm thinking out loud, is probably the scene where he sees Odysseus with the dog. Since he knows, he's like, "Oh, that's you."
That's my favorite scene of the movie.
Oh, really?
I started tearing up. I almost cried. I thought that scene was so powerful. I mean, emotionally and like as far as like feeling moved by the movie, that was my favorite scene. But like as far as like big spectacle, probably like the gates of Troy or the cave.
I'm trying to think if there's anything we haven't said about Tom Holland, Anne Hathaway. Something with Anne Hathaway is just like, it's so interesting that a lot of her performance is her like hiding behind the walls.
Mm-hmm.
Since it's like, I don't know how to articulate this. Like you physically see her behind. There's a lot of shots of her in the movie where she's like behind the wall, like when Odysseus is talking to her as the beggar, or like when she's weaving whatever she's working on.
The garland. Yeah.
Tapestry. I think that's the term. Like there's a lot of shots of her like hiding behind that. And it's like, to some degree, I think she's like scared to like move on and open herself to like other possibilities. But
she's trapped. But like
yeah, she's kind of trapped as well. Yeah, that's another. It's interesting. Like like it's so interesting the fact that you have all these suitors pursuing her, and she technically has all the power because she's the queen and none of them are.
Mm-hmm.
But yet she's also trapped, like you said, and she's kind of forced to be like to provide hospitality for them.
And I feel like everything we see her trapped behind is something she can easily like move or come out from behind. Like we always see her behind a door that she can easily open herself, or we see her behind the sewing that she can easily just step out from the side of. So it's kind of like it's on her.
Yeah. I just want to say I like Robert Pattinson playing a sleazy character.
I always like Robert Pattinson playing sleazy. I like him in anything, but especially like a sleazy character.
I was gonna say, I also noticed his legs. I don't know if you notice his legs. Like his skirt was higher than like everyone else's, and you see his knees quite a bit throughout the movie.
He's got little chicken legs.
I wasn't gonna say that, but I just thought it was interesting.
We used to call my brother chicken legs too, so it's kind of the same recognition that I picked up.
Um,
But you know what? I can't get the same torso build that he has for Batman, so I can't say much.
I'm trying to think if there's anything about the major characters like Tom Holland, Anne Hathaway, Robert Pattinson, or Matt Damon that we haven't said yet. I don't. Yeah, I think we covered everything. Let's talk about like some of the other people we haven't talked about. Like we've talked about Ithaca for quite a bit. We should probably talk about Troy and like Lupita Nyong'o. Um, she's obviously had quite a bit of controversy around her. I thought she nailed her role.
Yeah, same.
Like you just see the impact that this entire war has had on her through her facial expressions. She portrays that so well as Helena Troy. And I also liked the glimpse of her twin sister that we did see as well.
Yeah, that was a great.
Oh, you're saying the twin sister scene?
Yeah, I was just saying in general, like that sequence was great.
It was so interesting. It's such an interesting creative choice to cast Benny Safdie as Agamemnon, since he's such a towering presence. And it's like if you see him in other movies, like Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. He's just he's a little Jewish guy. Like he's with curly hair, and he's not menacing at all. And it's just like, and he's like dorky with his glasses. And then in this, he's like, you don't see his face on purpose. And I thought that was such a creative, and you're just like, oh my God, who is this guy behind the helmet? And then I remembered once I saw his curls, I'm like, oh, that's Benny Safdie. I'm like, that's crazy to me. I was just like, oh my God.
I was explaining that to my girlfriend. I was like, no, Range is not putting on completely different outfits and speaking in different accents. Like Benny Safdie is Range because he can be like the towering, menacing antagonist of a Christopher Nolan movie, and then he can also be like that stupid, moronic, silly, goofy villain of an Adam Sandler. And he does both of them really well, and he's really convincing.
Yeah,
I think it's so funny. The fact that he's been a villain for Christopher Nolan and a villain for Adam Sandler, I think is awesome. And like to me, that is true Range.
Plus, he's directing movies. It's just like, yeah, he's doing a lot. I feel like John Barenthal, we kind of talked about him enough. Unless there's something else you were gonna say that we haven't said about John Barenthal's character.
Just that he was another one that he was another that was to me one of my favorites in the movie. I loved his performance.
I just realized we missed a huge person when it came to Ithaca, so I apologize for that. We forgot to talk about John Leguizamo.
Yes! Oh my God! So I would put him next to I'd put him next to Patel as like my two favorite performances.
John Leguizamo, I don't want to say this is his comeback role because he was in The Menu a couple years ago and he did really good in that movie. But I feel like for people who didn't see that movie, they're like, oh my God, it was so nice to see John Leguizamo again. And that could have been a very lackluster role, like depending who plays it. But I feel like he did what he needed to.
So he was so good. His connection to the dog, even though he threw the first dog off the ledge. It was like, oh. But no, he to me was definitely one of the more emotionally moving performances out of the whole cast.
So, okay, we talked Ithaca, we talked Troy. We should probably talk about some of the people that Odysseus and his crew encounters along the way. So, Samantha Morton as Circe. A lot of people are talking about her. What was your take on her as the witch?
That was so scary. That was so scary.
I was more blown away by the special effects than her
Same.
performance. Since I was just like, how did they make that look so convincing? Them turning into the pigs.
She's really good at being Have you seen The Walking Dead?
No, I haven't.
She plays a villain in that show as well, like in the later seasons. But and she's really she's same thing, like that uncomfortable evil where it's like, ooh, like I just don't want to be in the same room as this person right now.
But she's also kind of empathetic to a degree as well.
Yes, more so in this than in Walking Dead.
That was an interesting touch that I don't know if it was in the original source material or not, but the fact that she's like, you guys are just like she was kind of scared of the guys, and she just kind of made assumptions about them and is like, you guys are just like brute strength, and you're not gonna like take the time to like be respectful towards me. That was an interesting point because that I thought they added in the movie. So I thought that was it, so you kind of empathize with her a little bit. So you understand why she's scared about like random strangers coming in, but also at the same time you're like, no, she's assuming they're gonna attack her. They're explicitly saying they're not going to. So it's like, and then like, yeah.
I would say that adds a little bit to her background too, because like you see when they go and leave all their armor and their weapons outside, and they see all the other like chest plates and armors that was also left out there from the past, and then you're like, oh, like there are other people here, and then you piece it together that those were some of the animals that were in her village. But for her to like assume that they're just brute strength and going to attack her, I guess that adds a little bit to her background to tell you that that was probably the intention of the people that showed up to her house before them. Maybe she didn't always turn people into animals and kill them, but it kind of turned into a last resort once the first wave of crazy people showed up. And then it just turned into like, okay, I've been screwed over too many times. Like if you show up on my doorstep asking for something, I'm going to assume that
that's an interesting take on it. I also think the brute strength thing is important since it kind of foreshadows what happens to the soldiers later on, because the soldiers act like they're better than Odysseus after the whole Cyclops incident, and they're questioning his leadership, and they're acting like they're smarter than him. But she's ultimately telling them like, no, you guys ultimately, even though you act or present yourself like you care about like approaching things in a smart way, are ultimately brute strength. And it's like, so I thought that was interesting, foreshadowing a little bit. I just realized I just jumped into Circe without talking about the Cyclops first. What did you think of Bill Irwin as the Cyclops?
That was Bill Irwin?
Yeah.
The Cyclops scene, to me, might have been the most just mesmerizing scene in film I've ever seen. And I know Nolan has gone to the extreme to pull off a lot of crazy, impossible things. And I feel like going into a lot of his movies, he explains how he pulls off a lot of those stunts. Like he talked about how they created the bomb for Oppenheimer, and like they showed footage of the plane crashing into the terminal in Tenet before the movie released. So like a lot of those crazy over the top things that Nolan pulls off in his movies, we're kind of aware of how it's done going into the movie. But this was the first time I was like genuinely how did they do this? Because
Me too.
I know for a fact Nolan did not put a green morph suit on somebody and had them run around to then be edited on the computer later.
The puppetry is insane
And I
because I was so into the scene at first where I was like, whoa, this is so cool. And then the more I thought about it as the scene progressed, I was like, wait a minute, isn't this supposed to be puppetry? And then I remembered and I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, how did they pull this off? Similar to the Circe scene with the men turning into pigs. I was like, I can't believe, like, I need to know, like, the behind the scenes of this, how they pulled off this magic trick.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that is why I'll be getting, the physical format of this movie when it's out, because I definitely want to go watch all that behind the scenes stuff. But I saw today I saw like a picture of the puppet of the Cyclops like up on strings, and I guess they used a puppet for it anytime it was like laying down and sleeping, and they had a shot of all the soldiers standing around it, and then anytime it was just focused on him, it was the Bill Irwin just being filmed and then enlarged later. So I guess the only like computer digitalizing they did was enlarging him when it was shots of just the Cyclops alone.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Just
for
that alone, it should get a visual effects nom for me.
Oh,
people are like,
will.
What should it get? What should it get nominated for the most? For me, that I'm like, that's my number one answer.
I know all the acting performances and the writing and the score was incredible, but I
know everyone's
take the VFX very seriously on
like,
this one.
The VFX, the cinematography with the IMAX camera, just totally building new technology that hasn't been done before, and then the production design. Those are the stuff where I'm like, yeah, I would definitely nominate it for that stuff for sure.
Yeah. It's wild, just the environment that those people are in. I know a guy that has worked on a lot of Christopher Nolan movies. I met him on the last film that I did. He started on Inception, and then he worked on everyone through Oppenheimer. So he was on Inception through Oppenheimer. And the Odyssey was the first time that he actually turned down going to work on it, because like he was like over it at that point. And I guess it's like summer camp for the crew at one point, but like a strict summer camp to the point like they're locking their phones up in their lockers, and like these lockers every day, and like lunches are shorter because the production is very intense. It's just a crazy atmosphere of living when working on.
You hear like what they did for this movie, like them having. There's certain scenes on mountains that they had to like climb up and down every day.
Yeah,
that was the only way to get there. I'm just like, oh my god.
You got to print a lot of safety waivers on this production.
So we talked about how amazing the Cyclops sequence and the Circe sequence was. Mm-hmm. What about just the Trojan horse and the fact how just cool that entire sequence with the Trojan horse on the beach to them sneaking out with the rope and then attacking the city, and that is just crazy. The fact that I heard they filmed in Morocco and built that whole Troy set from scratch. And I'm like, that's why I think it should be nominated for production design, since I'm like, that whole city they built from scratch. I'm like, that's crazy.
Did you hear what John Bernthal said about that too?
No.
There was a point during filming where he was like submerged underwater in there, and he was like in an uncomfortable spot, but he kind of just had to stay there because he had no choice, and the water was freezing, and he was like visually uncomfortable and shivering. And I guess Christopher Nolan was starting to get a little concerned, and he was telling people like, we need to pull out Bernthal, like let's get him out of there. He looks a little too Oh,
That's crazy. But it
and
kind of adds to the sequence because they're trying to make a point. Like in every other iteration, they make like they're like, oh, it was this tricky feat that was hard to pull off. But when you see it conveyed, it doesn't actually feel that way. This is the first time I've seen it conveyed in something where I'm like, oh, this looks like a hard, like being in there and having to deal with the pee and the
well,
poop.
yeah,
I'm like, damn.
yeah, that specifically when when the narration had said like men just sitting in their own like pee and feces, I like sniffed the air and I just was like, oh god, it's bad.
And like the fact that you have the Trojan horse being pulled on those logs and you just have to sit there quietly and it must hurt so much and you just have to like suck it up. Like
That reminded me. It reminded me of working on a film set with like ram board because we'll take like these big like crane vehicles that have these huge wheels and sometimes we have to drive them on grass and it's bad sometimes if the grass is wet and it's raining because you're destroying the grass. So we have to lay the boards down on the grass so it can drive on the board and then when it drives like to the front of it we have to like sprint to the back, pick up the backboard and then like bring it to the front so we can keep going forward. And that's just all I can think about when I saw them pulling the horse on the logs. I was
yeah,
like,
because in
oh.
other depictions of like the Trojan horse, it has wheels, and I was like, this version did not have wheels, and it were like, that was a hard thing to move.
Was it on wheels in the original story?
I feel like I've never read the full text as a whole, or like any translated version of the text.
Yeah, me neither.
But like, I just remember like seeing versions of it with wheels throughout the years, and even other people who saw this movie were pointing out, and I'm like, oh yeah, it did have wheels in other versions. I'm like, that's interesting that this version didn't. So I
feel
just
like
thought that was
every like drawing or image I would see of it in like a history textbook when I was in school or whatever, I feel like I always remembered it like being up on wheels.
Repeat that. Sorry, I don't think the mic
Like
picked that up.
like being in school and like history classes and the textbooks, I feel like anytime there was like an image of the Trojan horse or anytime we covered it in school, there were always like images of it up on wheels.
Yes, exactly. Kind of getting back to like the performances, we're talking about like Samantha Morton and Bill Irwin with the Trojan horse specifically. What did you think of Elliot Page?
I thought Elliot Page did good in this, and the whole Achilles thing bothers me.
Oh, you're saying the controversy of people upset they thought Elliot Page was cast as Achilles when they weren't.
Because me personally, Elliot Page would make a great Achilles, but that's a whole different discussion. But no, I think it was very interesting to open that scene with Elliot Page too. I was about to say open the movie with Elliot Page, but then I remembered, oh wait, it was Travis Scott. But then quickly jumped.
Yeah, it's like when Bernthal's character is narrating his interpretation of the events that went down. It opens with Elliot Page, unfortunately, having to be the sacrifice. But which I'm curious what people who are part of the LGBT community's interpretation of that is going to be and whether that's going to sit well with them or not. However, the part that I thought was interesting, besides what I just said, is the fact that Robert Pattinson's character, he's just like, nah, I don't want to do this. And then this character, I think Sinone is the name of the character, takes the fall for Robert Pattinson's character. And it's like, you literally just got out of this. And the fact that they depicted this character this way as like this brave person who didn't need to do this to fight in this war, but takes the fall for Robert Pattinson's character, and they chose to cast like a trans man in this role. I thought that was a very cool casting choice, and I loved what Nolan did with the character ultimately, because it adds more weight to like the points of Robert Pattinson is not as brave, since if he was brave, he would have fought himself, is the thing. And he was just weaseling his way out of it. So, yeah. I don't know
It was
if
a bit of a
I
weasel.
expressed the nuance of what I was trying to say. But I thought it was an interesting choice to cast Elliot Page in that role. Yeah.
I thought he did great. And I thought, like I said, like having his death happen right there in the beginning, just for him to be brought up and talked about later, and then seen again when he goes to visit Hades. I think that just added
the Hades scene
more
was
weight
super
to his
effective.
performance. Yeah.
I think the scene where he's like, why did you have to lie to me, to Odysseus? Since in order to pull off the deceit or the trick of the Trojan horse, Odysseus felt like he needed to lie to Sinon in order to pull this off, because if Sinon believed they weren't in there, that the Trojans were more likely to believe it as well. And and then so that was interesting. I love that sequence of like, and then Elliot Page giving the token to Matt Damon, and then Matt Damon bringing that back and then giving it to Robert Pattinson, and he knows exactly what that means, that token.
Tell your brother I brought back your shame. Oh, so good. That's what he said, right?
Yeah, something like that. And
yeah, I thought that was great.
Apparently, I was looking into this. So this character is not in the original Odyssey. However, this character was introduced in something called, I think it's pronounced the Aeneid or Aeneid or something like that.
The Iliad?
No, Aeneid.
I don't know the Iliad.
No, Iliad is the other Homer story.
But, yeah.
So Elliot Page's character was introduced in that, and that apparently focuses on a Trojan who fled the city after the fall of Troy, and then I think travels to Italy. I think that's what the story is. So in that interpretation of the fall of Troy, this character is the one. It's like similar to what we see here, is the one who tells the Trojans about the horse and blah, 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 blah. And yeah. So I'm trying to think if we haven't talked about Charlize Theron yet.
No, we have not.
As Calypso.
That was another one who I feel like at this point, every time a Chris Nolan movie is like announced and coming out, there are just so many. I mean, at least since Oppenheimer, there's just so many A-listers now that get announced for it that I get to the point of feeling like everybody's in it. To the point where when I'm at the point of actually seeing the movie, I'll only remember like the 4 main stars that are in it. And then seeing all those people pop up again, it's just like hearing the announcement that they were casted again. But besides that, I think she was a really interesting choice for Calypso. I don't even mean to say interesting. Like that was spot on. Like I that would have been my choice too, I think.
She's someone, her character is interesting because it's
Mm-hmm.
like you understand why Odysseus is like drawn to her and would fall for her tricks is the thing.
Mm-hmm.
But then also at the same time, there's there is something like scary about her because but she's not scary in the way that like the Cyclops or Circe is, but she's scary in the sense of like sometimes the scariest people are people who are charming and charismatic and
Yeah.
like can cast you under their spell, and then he literally ends up there for 7 years as a result because he just keeps being fed the lotus flower and who knows what's happening to him. They don't even fully touch on that in this version of the story, but I mean, she is a nymph, so you can just kind of imply and read between the lines what
Yeah.
happens. But yeah, she wants him as her husband. So yeah,
My little sister made a funny joke about that scene being like, I thought they were supposed to be eating lotus flowers at the Las Vegas casino hotel, like making
yeah, it's
reference
hard
to
not to
Percy
think of Percy
Jackson.
Jackson when
Yeah.
you watch this and think of the
And I
vintage
didn't
stuff at all.
I like
It was in the
read
back of my head.
I like read the Odyssey in high school, but not like the full book because it was like the English textbook version of it, and I don't remember much of it because I was just somebody who didn't pay attention much to the books that were read to me in school. I'm a big reader now, but I wasn't as much in high school. But it just like there were a lot of instances in this movie that I was like, oh well, if I didn't remember the Odyssey book in high school, I'm sure glad I grew up with Percy Jackson because I understood that. I understood that. Like they did the siren songs in the most recent season of Percy Jackson in the Sea of Monsters season.
That's the second book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's so interesting since my friend keeps sending me memes of like, oh, like people don't realize Percy Jackson went through this too. And then it was
Yeah.
like it was like it's so interesting because there is this whole generation of people who Percy Jackson is a large reason why they got into Greek mythology.
Mm-hmm.
Who
That's my
it's
reason.
hard not to think of those books or the TV shows or like the movies and have that in the back of your head while watching this.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, I like had my short little like aspect of school in fourth grade of being introduced to Greek mythology, and like we actually like touched on Thor a lot, but I feel like they did that year because it was the same year that the movie was coming out, so maybe that's why. But I feel like it was like shortly around that time was when I started getting into Percy Jackson, or maybe it was right before then. But yeah, like that was my introduction to Greek mythology. Like I knew who Zeus was, but that might have been like I didn't know who Ares or Poseidon or Athena was
I
until the first
definitely
lightning thief.
so for me, I definitely remember reading a ton of like books on Greek mythology growing up
Mm-hmm.
before Percy Jackson even came out. But I do remember Percy Jackson definitely like solidified my interest in Greek mythology and my
Yeah,
obsession with it.
they made
And
it so accessible for younger
it was definitely like Greek mythology is definitely my first obsession before movies
people.
was.
Really?
So it's like I would read a lot of these stories over and over again, even though I already knew the stories in like in different books and stuff, to see if I caught different details each time. And that kind of goes with like what Nolan is saying about this movie of just like we know these stories to some degree and we keep revisiting them because depending on who tells them or who tells the story or like who translates the story, whether it be the Odyssey or like other myths and stuff, they might change certain details in the way it's being told. And like you might catch new things that you didn't before. Or like growing up, there was a lot of myths that I read and it was the child friendly version. And then I grew up and I heard about the not child-friendly version of the myths, like Medusa, for instance, and I was like, whoa, this is a total, like, what? Like, so it's like, it is important to, like, revisit these stories. So the people who are like, why does this movie exist? The Odyssey is a tale as old as time. It technically hadn't been adapted into, like, a feature-length film, like the entire book until now. Parts of it, like, again, movies like I mentioned earlier, like The Return, adapt parts of the story, but didn't necessarily attempt to tackle the whole story. So it's like, that's why people, including Nolan, constantly revisit these stories and are so consumed by these stories, because there's new details you catch every time, and there's new things you can learn about yourself and the world as a whole, depending on which version you hear. So it's like when I heard about the Medusa myth, like the not child-friendly version for the first time, I was like, I definitely looked at the whole world differently after that. And I was like, wow, I was just like certain issues just go back to ancient times. And I'm like, that's crazy. So it's like, I was into I was already into Greek mythology before Percy Jackson came out. And Percy Jackson was just a nice new take and approach on all the myths I was already familiar with. And also, it's just, let's be honest, just very fun as well. Like, it's just fun. It's a fun world. The world building is great. Yeah.
Are you familiar? So, are you familiar with God of War then?
I'm familiar with it. I haven't played the games. I know they're adapting it right now.
Yeah.
And they're having some issues, but
yeah, which Ryan Hurst is another one that was in this movie too.
Yeah, Ryan Hurst is the mentor of.
Yeah, I had no idea that he was in this at all. Going into it, and he was another like swept under the rug. Marketing didn't shine on him too much, and like he was also really good in this movie. And it's funny too. Speaking of what's the actress that plays Cersei again? What was her name?
Samantha Moran.
So Ryan Hurst was also in The Walking Dead, and they were in it at the exact same time, and they were villains together. Their names were literally Alpha and Beta. She was Alpha and he was Beta. So yeah, I thought it was very interesting to see them both in here. But he was like a very humble and protective character.
Well, actually, I'm glad you kind of brought up Ryan Hurst's character as the mentor of Tom Holland's character. Is it? Oh my god, I always forget how to pronounce his name.
Telemachus.
Telemachus.
Yeah. Me and my roommate were struggling yesterday too. Yeah.
Telemachus.
Yeah.
So Telemachus. So the reason I said it was interesting you brought up the Ryan Hurst is because apparently in some iterations of the Odyssey, Athena disguises herself as the mentor.
Oh, really?
And that's how she presents herself. Because one of the things they talk about like throughout this movie is like Zeus's law in treating everyone with respect, because you don't know who among you is a god. So I don't know if that character per se is Athena, but there is versions of the Odyssey where that character is Athena in disguise. But the reason it fits what I wanted to talk about next is because the last performance we haven't talked about, and I saved it last for a reason, is Athena. And Zendaya's Athena. And I think, to me, the more I thought about this character, I realized she's probably the most interesting character of the movie, and she's not being talked about enough.
Oh, look, she's only in it for like 3.5 minutes.
So, yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. Do you think, since some people are like, they gave Zendaya nothing to do, she's a boring character, or are you in the camp of, Oh no, there is actually some interesting stuff with her character, even though it's minimal screen time.
I think a lot of times minimal screen time builds um, a lot of weight to a character's presence, and I feel like it that was done well with Zendaya as Athena. But the thing is, they maybe used her maybe too little for for you to have like that feeling of sheer weight in her presence. I still felt it, just maybe not as much. But I thought she was good. I think she did a good job. She did her assignment really well. But yeah, I guess I just needed to see more of her.
I feel so. I guess the first thing I want to talk about, since you say we see her so little, but when we do see her, every scene that she has is with Odysseus.
Yeah.
So I guess one of the questions I want to get into with Athena, since there's a few questions to talk about with her character, which is why I kind of left it for last, since it gets a little tricky, and definitely gets into the spoiler territory. Her character specifically,
Mhm.
like one of the first things is like, why does Odysseus basically see her? What was your take on that?
Like why he was seeing her,
Yeah,
and I think it was because of just some of the regret that he was feeling from Troy.
being haunted by that. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
I think.
I think it just had to do with his haunting of Troy. Yeah, you like you said, you put it well.
Yeah, like basically she is, you see her temple get desecrated at the very end of the movie.
Hmm.
Um and I there is a part of her that is upset with Odysseus for doing so. And you can tell his actions are haunting him, and that was an interesting twist kind of in the end of the movie of um the fact that they like reveal, I think going into the movie when everyone heard Zendaya cast as Athena, people are like, "Oh, that's awesome. She's basically a goddess in human form. That casting makes perfect sense." But then when they reveal at the end that that might not actually be Athena, but rather just a priestess in the temple, and that Athena is disguising herself as in order to haunt Odysseus and make him feel guilt for his actions. That was an interesting twist that I don't know if they've ever done in any other version of the Odyssey before, that Nolan, that's strictly original in Nolan's take, I
I'll be
believe.
honest, I don't think I caught that.
I know I didn't catch it on initial viewing at first either, because I was like, because I saw the end where they show you the temple and stuff, and they show you Zendaya's character, and then they quickly edit to the statue's head being cut off. So
Hmm.
I was like, it didn't click in my head. I thought he was. I thought she was Athena in that scene, and they were just flashing from her as Athena to the statue. But then, from what I'm hearing, it seems like she was a priestess that was working in the temple, who was most likely killed that night, and possibly even worse was done to her by the soldiers. And Odysseus was a witness to that, so he feels guilty for it. And among all the other atrocities that happened that night of burning Troy, since he views that as the fall of civilization. So Athena kind of just disguises herself as that priestess, which I thought was interesting.
Hmm.
That no one did that. I was going to say, I think a detail people forget about Athena specifically is she is the goddess of wisdom, but she's also the goddess of like the strategic part of war. So that's another reason why it makes sense for him to see her specifically rather than like,
Because his strategy wasn't right.
yeah, exactly, her rather than like Ares, since Ares more so represents, he's the god of war too, but he more so represents the brutality of war. So I guess like her, she's kind of there to be like, was everything for the sake of strategy like you claim, or was there certain things and certain actions that didn't need to be done that were done that you can maybe have changed?
Mm-hmm.
So I think, yeah, her character, I feel like even though she does get little screen time, I feel like there's more going on. And I think there's even an argument you could say of, because her temple was desecrated and the fall of Troy happened, is she really the one who starts the catalyst of all these soldiers being cursed? Or is it Poseidon, like they claim it is later on? Because like when the Cyclops happen, you hear the soldiers be like, "Oh, Poseidon is the one." I mean, this is, they're like, "Oh, that's, I didn't we didn't realize this was Poseidon's son, and now we're gonna have to pay the price, and Poseidon's gonna curse us." But like, I was wondering if like they were already cursed from the get go, even before that, by Athena, based on everything that happens, and if, because when you see Agamemnon specifically, which is Betty Safdie's character,
Mm-hmm.
like his fate is kind of cursed too, and he doesn't even know it yet. So it's like, that's why I think you can make the argument of, did Athena, was Athena the one to curse them, or was it Poseidon? Really?
I think it was Athena, or did when Agamemnon sacrificed his daughter? Did he throw her into the ocean?
Oh, that's a good argument too.
Because
I
maybe it
think
was
so.
Poseidon, because she then landed on Poseidon's doorstep in a way, and then he
Ooh.
punishes him back for it.
Yeah, so it's kind of ambiguous of like who really is the one that curses.
Or it could have been Athena because he sacrificed her so that they could have soft winds on his travel. That's not a proper war strategy. So, Athena also could have punished it. Maybe it was both, maybe it was one or the other, but there's good reason for both of them doing it.
Yeah, I feel like it's a little ambiguous.
Yeah.
Um, Sorry, I was just gathering my thoughts. There's just so much to unpack and dissect with that.
It could have been
Um,
Athena because the ocean didn't punish him though. Like his end didn't come from the sea. It came from his wife, a woman.
um, okay. I feel like we've talked about the performances enough. Um, I guess we should talk about, I guess we can get rid of the spoiler warning and then talk about how we think this movie compares to other Nolan movies now,
Yeah.
if you're down. Okay.
Oh yeah. It's a
Okay.
great topic that I've been chatting with people already about.
So I think I've seen every Nolan movie since 2005's Batman Begins.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what about you? Have you seen any of the ones before Batman Begins, like The Following, Memento, or Insomnia, or have you not seen those?
I think I'm right there with you, except the only one that I have seen before Batman Begins is Memento. So I haven't seen The Prestige and I haven't seen Insomnia. I think that's it because I've seen everything else. What was the one that came out? Or is The Prestige the one? Did that come out after or before Batman Begins? Is
That
that
came out after Batman Begins.
so was The Dark Knight his movie after Batman Begins, or was there something in between that?
So 2005 was Batman Begins, and 2006 was The Prestige. And
Six was
then,
Prestige. Okay,
yeah.
so
And then
I saw
2008
Begins.
was Dark Knight.
So I saw Batman Begins. Didn't see The Prestige, and then I've seen everything up there. I mean, if somebody tells me they haven't seen Batman Begins or The Dark Knight, I need to sit them down and have a serious chat with them.
To anyone joining late, we just finished talking spoiler talk. We might get into spoilers again at the very end, but if you want to hear like a thorough spoiler breakdown of like each of the characters, then go back and listen to that. But anyways, getting back, right now we don't have the spoiler warning up anymore. If we talk spoilers again, we'll put the warning up again. But right now we're talking just like Nolan's filmography as a whole. So you said you saw Memento,
Yeah.
right? Okay, and I haven't seen Memento, and then neither of us have seen The Following or Insomnia.
Mm-hmm.
Insomnia was the start of Nolan's like partnership with Warner Brothers. The other two films were random distributors that aren't that as big as Warner Brothers was. And then, like we said, 2005, he did Batman Begins, starting the Dark Knight trilogy. He did The Prestige. I've seen that. You haven't. Then he did Dark Knight. And then he did Inception in 2010. And then he ends his trilogy, the Dark Knight trilogy, with Dark Knight Rises in 2012. Is the Dark Knight trilogy your favorite thing he's ever done, or is there some in that time period, or do you like Inception more than the Dark Knight trilogy?
It's hard. It's hard. My favorite Dark Knight movie is The Dark Knight Rises. I think I'm in the minority when I say that that one is better than The Dark Knight. I understand why people like The Dark Knight the most, but I just think Rises is a little better because I think the plot's a little stronger.
That's me with Return of the Jedi. That's my favorite of the original Star Wars trilogy.
Me too. That's my favorite one too. I'm a big fan of the third movie. And it's not like I don't go into a third movie telling myself that's going to be my favorite one. It's just the third of a trilogy. Like War for the Planet of the Apes is my favorite of the years. It's honestly like on my list of favorites ever. But back to Nolan. It's tricky because if I like rank all of Nolan's movies, I don't have the Dark Knight movies like all right next to each other. They're kind of spread out a little bit.
Okay, interesting.
I would say like The Dark Knight Rises and Inception are like my two, like either this or that could be my favorite Nolan movie. But if we're not, when I talk Nolan movies though, when I talk about like the wide rest of them, I try not to include the Dark Knight trilogy just because that's three of them and it's just a completely different discussion against the rest of his movies. So I kind of try to focus more on the other ones. And I would say that Inception and Interstellar are my two favorites of Nolan.
I was just going to ask about Interstellar since I was going to say, so you have the pre-Dark Knight era, which we talked about already. Then you have the Dark Knight era of what movies he did during that time. And then post-Dark Knight, he did Interstellar, Dunkirk, Tenet. And then Tenet is when his partnership with Warner Brothers ends, and then he starts working with Universal with Oppenheimer, and the Odyssey is also under Universal Studios as well. So it's a new partnership, but Nolan's last two movies with Universal seems to be pretty succimmal so far.
Yeah. I feel like his new era kind of started with Tenet though, because didn't he use Hans Zimmer for every movie?
That's true.
up until Tenet. That was his first time working with Ludwig. And I think the reason that he didn't use Hans Zimmer was because he was working on Dune, so it was just a scheduling thing.
But
I
then
don't
I
know.
think it also gets a little tricky because like what starts that new era, because you can there's one argument for like his new era starts with his partnership with Universal, and then we'll see what films he does with Universal going forward after the Odyssey if he does end up choosing to make more films. Um, but like you said, you can also make the argument of like that new era starts with Tenet because he's no longer working with Hans Zimmer. But then you can also, I think, make an argument for Dunkirk as well because Dunkirk is more historical, similar
Yeah.
to Oppenheimer, and it's him trying something different. And recently, a lot of like three of his four past movies are more historical than we've seen him really do in the past. Besides maybe The Prestige, since that's a period piece technically, but
When does that take place?
I forgot. I'm not the biggest fan of The Prestige, which I know the Prestige fans will
Yeah.
be pissed
I
off at
almost
me for saying, but it's a gimmick. It's like it's a big magic trick. That's the
yeah.
whole thing with, and some people, that's the part of Nolan's filmmaking that they like. They've they're like he's the king of magic tricks, whether it be Memento or like pulling off special effects like we see with like the Odyssey or whatever. Like, but like I'm not the I don't deeply it it doesn't deeply resonate with me as much as his other films do, The Prestige. But yeah. So now that we've kind of like mentioned like all of his films, is there like one in particular that like stands out as his best for you or no?
I would say Inception. Like Inception's on my Letterboxd top 4, and it's the only Nolan movie that's on there. I have a lot of his movies, or not a lot, but like a good chunk of them, like in my top 50 list on there, like all my 5-star movies. But yeah, I would say Inception is my favorite one.
Part of my
But it
problem
could also
is
be The Dark
yeah,
Knight Rises. It could also be Dark Knight Rises.
okay.
I
Yeah,
just it's hard to rank The Dark Knight Rises with them, with the rest of his movies,
yeah.
or like that trilogy against the rest of his movies. It's a hard discussion to have.
I it's tricky for me because it's like I don't know if I still feel the same way about Inception that I did when I first saw it, and I haven't seen it in such a long time. So I'm like curious if I rewatched Inception like after seeing Odyssey, if that would be my number one Nolan movie. But like I'm kind of leaning towards the Odyssey right now, which I know sounds crazy, but
Me
I
too.
just since it's so recent, but already like days in the few days since I've seen it, I'm already like analyzing it a lot and noticing a lot of like clever details and just like things I didn't even notice. Like we were talking about like the whole Athena stuff earlier. There's a lot of interesting stuff going there. And if we have time, we can get into some more of the things that the movie's trying to touch on thematically as well. There's
Mhm.
just like so much to dissect and unpack, honestly. And it just and also I'm just like I said, Greek mythology was like my first hyperfixation before movies. So it's like to see movies and Greek mythology like those hyperfixations overlapped on such a grand scale in an epic way. It's hard for me to resist, honestly. So
Yeah. What day did you see it on?
I saw it like a couple days ago, like Thursday.
Okay. Yeah, I saw it yesterday in the morning. Um, yeah, I saw it early at like 10 a.m. and I'm glad I got it done right away.
But Inception is definitely up there for me.
Oh yeah. I think I'm gonna rewatch it tomorrow because my girlfriend has never seen it. And at first, I asked her if she wanted to watch Interstellar because she's never seen that either. She likes Nolan movies. She's not the biggest Christopher Nolan fan. She loves the Dark Knight movies. Those are definitely her favorites. But like she wasn't the biggest fan of Oppenheimer, which is understandable. Not everybody liked Oppenheimer.
I I like didn't really like Interstellar on first watch since I thought it was just very
Yeah,
cheesy, and I was like, I don't know about this. And it's a lot of people's like favorite Nolan film because they view it as his most sentimental film that he's ever done. Because I think I don't want to call him a cold director, but he is kind of like a hard director for people to emotionally connect with his movies, and that one's one of
sometimes.
the easiest for some people to connect with. Not me personally, because I feel like, again, when I first saw it, I was just like, oh, all the Murph stuff, this is so cheesy, and I was just like rolling my eyes. On rewatch, I was like, I'm gonna give this movie another chance, and I was like, okay, maybe I'm being too harsh on it, and I didn't hate it, but I still don't love it. Like it's
Yeah,
decent, but it's not. It just, as a sci-fi fan, I don't think it's as smart as some other films in the sci-fi genre. Yeah, I know it sounds somewhat pretentious saying this, but it just like, but it when people are like, "Oh, this is one of the best sci-fi movies of all time," I'm just like, "Really? Is it really?" I was like, "I don't know about that."
well, I think it just focuses more on trying to be emotional than it does smart.
For sure, and I'm just like,
And I feel like Christopher Nolan's biggest fan base, like the clientele of his fan base would be like our generation. Like what grade were you in when you first watched Interstellar?
um,
In 2014. It was
I
November of
have
2014.
no clue.
I was in 8th grade when I first saw Interstellar in theaters. And when I first saw it in theaters, I was like oh, like that movie looked cool. Like it was visually pleasing, and I didn't understand it completely, and I was just like, you're like, yeah, like this movie was all right. I felt the same way about Gravity when that first came out because that they kind of came out around the same time, but I didn't like that one at first though. But then like I rewatched Interstellar again for my first time after that. I think in 2021. So I was a sophomore in college, and I think like that second rewatch that I had of it, it felt like my first time watching it because I like truly understood it. I truly grasped it. I was like, I get it now. And I'm a softie when it comes to movies. I can cry pretty easy. Interstellar gets me almost every time. And I think if a movie can make me tear up like that, then it gets a lot of points.
I think you said it well. Of like, it's more concerned with being emotional and sentimental than it is with being smart.
Yeah, it really is.
But I feel like, I don't know. There's other sci-fi movies like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Like that gets emotional and smart. So I feel I don't like there's other movies like that, for instance, where I'm like, or like I would even argue like Blade Runner, like
I've never seen Blade Runner.
not initially, but I think when you get to like the second half or the third act of the movie, they get you in the feels. So it's like I feel like it's
You're
possible.
talking the '80s one, right? Not the Ryan
Yeah, I
Gosling one.
feel the first movie. I think it came out like 82 or something like that. I could be wrong.
80 something.
Yeah, but I feel like there are other sci-fi movies that can balance both, and I feel like I have a hard time putting Interstellar on the top of the sci-fi of like on the list of like best sci-fi movies of all time because it's just I feel like there's just other movies that do both better.
Yeah, and
Emotion
it's
and
also
are
it's hard to
smart.
like rank it. It's hard to rank it against like a sci-fi movie that's very like war and politic heavy, like Dune. Like yeah, they're both sci-fis, but they're not the same movie.
Do you mean like a Children of Men or like Dune? What do you mean when you say that?
Like I just mean like as far as like Interstellar is a really good sci-fi, but I don't think it's the best sci-fi just because like there are other like sci-fi slash space movies that have like other themes or genres to them as far as Dune. Like Dune is like like yeah, it's a space movie, but not really. But like it's a sci-fi movie that focuses very heavily on war and politics versus Interstellar is just a very heavily centered on adventure and family and emotion. Like it's just hard to pit Interstellar against the rest of the sci-fi genre as far as ranking.
Yeah. Um, I could say more about Dune, but I don't want to get on a tangent right now. We should probably get into like the Odyssey's Oscar chances. We kind of talked earlier. You think Matt Damon's a lock for actor right now, and
100%.
then supporting actress for Anne Hathaway, I also think is a lock right now. I would argue even maybe even more so than Matt Damon is, which
Would
is
she be
it's not
best? Would
crazy.
she be supporting actress or best actress?
It seems they're pushing her for supporting right now. Since I
Okay.
saw people who were like, "Oh, she's going to be pushed for lead, and maybe like Samantha Morton could be supporting," but then I'm looking at all of like the Oscar prediction sites, and they keep putting Anne Hathaway supporting rather than lead. So I don't think they're
It's
campaigning
interesting.
her for lead,
I wonder
which
why. Like, what other female actor in the movie is like ahead of her as far as
but
lead?
yeah, it gets tricky because it's like, is she really a lead or is Odysseus the main character?
I get that, but I figured it would be like male lead and female lead.
That's fair. Yeah, it gets very tricky with Oscar campaigning. Since some people will, when you put someone like Anne Hathaway in lead, they're like, that's category fraud.
Right.
And like,
Category
like,
fraud.
like, I don't think I'm, I could be misremembering, but like Kieran Culkin in Real Pain comes to mind of like they pushed him for supporting actor, or like Ariana Grande I think was supporting actress for Wicked rather than lead,
I
even
think
though
the
they're kind of
show
co-leads.
I think the show at the awards that confused me the most with that is have you ever seen Succession?
Yes.
So every season when they were nominated at the Emmys or the Golden Globes or whatever, like Brian Cox, Matthew McFadden, Jeremy Strong, and Kieran Culkin, like they would all be nominated for Best Actor. Maybe Matthew McFadden was supporting actor, but you would have Brian Cox, Kieran Culkin, and Jeremy like for actor. And then when anytime Sarah Snook was nominated for Shiv, she would be nominated for Best Actress versus Best Supporting Actress. I think, like, I could be wrong, but I feel like I remember like three Succession stars at one Emmy show and Golden Globe show, like being nominated against each other. And maybe the rules are different when it comes to TV versus movies.
Well, all of the siblings are kind of the leads of the show except for Connor.
Yeah, yeah, except for Connor.
So it's like I can
Except
kind
for
of see
Connor
that a
can be
little
said a
bit,
lot.
but getting back to the Odyssey, I feel like, oh yeah, we were talking about Anne Hathaway, so for
Yes.
supporting being a lock. What I think the other categories, I think right now the Odyssey is the front runner for Best Picture for sure, and then I think some other categories it could get nominated in, but I don't know if it's gonna win per se quite yet because it's too early to tell. Is like best director and
Hmm.
adapted screenplay. Um, and then there's like a ton of other categories where it's like it might get nominated, like casting, since this ensemble is crazy. So
Hmm.
what they could do instead of being like, we like people like Samantha Morton and we like Lupita Nyong'o or Zendaya or like people like Kamesh Patel, like you said, or like me with Logan Marshall Green, but we don't want to nominate them per se because there's too many people to nominate and they're all gonna contradict each other. Why
Right.
don't we just nominate them all for ensemble instead for casting, basically?
Yeah.
So that could be the way you honor people who don't necessarily get noms for supporting actor or supporting actress per se.
I just
Um,
also I don't think like Zendaya or Lupita can like. Is there a qualification for screen time?
there isn't, but like the person who notably won with the least amount of screen time was Anthony Hopkins, I think, for Silence of the Lambs. It's like
Oh
10
yeah,
minutes or something
he had
like
10
that.
minutes in that movie. Yeah.
So, and then cinematography, I think, especially after all the IMAX talk we talked about earlier, it should definitely be considered for cinematography, and it might
Damon.
honestly be nominated for that. Costumes, editing, makeup, hair, production design, it's definitely a contender for the reasons I said before. Score, Ludwig score, sound, and then visual effects are like all the categories. So when you add up all those categories that we've mentioned, it's like 14 nominations it could potentially get at least at this moment.
I feel like Ludwig is a potential lock for an Oscar nomination anytime he composes anything. Like I know I forgot who it was on the show we were listening to that said it's too soon to say that Ludwig is young Hans Zimmer yet, but I don't think it's too soon to tell. I think he is.
Well, the thing with Ludwig is like he's already won a lot more than most people have Oscar wise.
Do you know how old he is?
Um, Good question. Apparently, Ludwig
Because
is
he's like around the same age
41.
as 40. Okay, okay. Because I was gonna say I know him and Ryan Coogler are around the same age because they went to the same college and they were in school together.
I'm trying to remember how many Oscars he has so far. I believe
Sinners. He will get one for Odyssey. Not a
he, he's
maybe
he
not a win,
he
but he'll be
won three
nominated.
Oscars so far.
Was he only nominated for three, or was he nominated for more?
No, he's been nominated for more than three, but he's won three.
And it was
Yeah,
Sinners.
one for Sinners. He won score this. He won for the Sinners score, the Oppenheimer score, and the Black Panther score so far. So the Academy likes him enough to like keep giving him awards, but the question is, it's not that he's not winning. It's just nobody possibly ever is going to be able to compete with John Williams' nominations. I think he has like 50 nominations or something crazy like that
Is
in
he the most
total.
nominated like person in Oscar history?
I
I
don't
feel like
think
it's
so. And here's why I don't think he is. So, okay, currently he's been nominated for 54 Oscars, winning 5. But
he's only won five.
I think Walt Disney may or may not be tied or have more than him.
Oh, Walt Disney himself.
Yeah, Walt Disney won 22 competitive Academy Awards from a total of 59 nominations.
Wow.
So from my recollection, has the most nominations in Oscar history. Walt Disney, but then John Williams is right behind him.
I didn't even think about that. The fact that Walt Disney could have Oscar nominations.
Yeah, because he did so many animated shorts
Yeah.
and stuff that, and back
He
in
probably
the day,
created like that category. Or like not him himself, but like because of his work, that's probably
yeah,
why
Disney
that.
was such a leader in animated filmmaking in the early
Yeah.
days. So there was nothing else to really compete against. So yeah, he just got nominated so many times for that alone.
They're like, we gotta open up some sort of window just for this guy and everybody else that's gonna follow him.
But so when you talk about the greatest of all time, Ludwig is never going to be able to compete with that number of nominations, since I don't know
No.
if anyone's ever going to get over 50 plus nominations the way John Williams did. But like, he already has 3 Oscars. John Williams has 5. So he's getting up there when it comes to wins at least. But he still has a long way to go.
How many wins does Hans Zimmer have?
Ooh, that's a good question.
I feel like he has more than 3.
He has 2 Oscars.
Oh wow, only 2. Jeez. Jeez, what other composers are out here beating John Williams and Hans Zimmer?
Yeah, that's crazy. He's only won 2 Oscars. One was for the Dune Part 1 score, and then the other Hans Zimmer score was The Lion King.
I think the Dune score is one of the best scores.
I think Dune Part 2 is his best work ever.
Yeah, it's specifically Dune Part 2, yeah. And
It's
Man of
crazy
Steel.
it was disqualified.
Yeah, because every song was like an adaptation or like a pasting of.
Yeah, not original
from
enough.
Part 1.
Because
it makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes sense. Like, yeah, a lot of that music is almost on par with the first, but
yeah, there's like a certain percentage you have to hit that's original, and you can't use too much of what's been done before, and they didn't hit the quota. So
I think Man of Steel is my favorite Hans Zimmer score.
I feel like we've covered the Odyssey's Oscars chances like pretty in depth. And I feel like there's so much more we could honestly get into with the Odyssey. Like we didn't even get into a lot of like the thematic stuff or the motifs of the movie. There's so much more to unpack with that, honestly. But I feel like it's that we should probably just wrap up soon, honestly, because otherwise we're gonna be here forever.
otherwise I'm gonna have to turn on some more lights.
Yeah, so I hope everyone.
No,
Wait, what did you say?
I was just saying, but no, like you are right. Like it's impossible to unpack this movie in 2 hours.
Yeah, like there was so much more that I could theoretically touch on that we didn't even get to. But I was already like looking at the time when we were near the end of our spoiler talk, and I was like, I should probably wrap this up and move on to like the rest of his filmography and his Oscar chances, even though I really want to get into some of the other stuff thematically, but it's just like we're gonna be here forever if we do that. So
you said this one too was working like it could be your favorite of his work.
Yeah.
What was it before this? You said
probably Inception.
Yeah. Okay, that's what I thought.
But
I'm with you there.
Yeah. I know we kind of were all over the place during this episode, and because there's just so much to unpack with this movie, and it's so dense, and we didn't even get into all of it. But I hope people had fun listening to at least some of it. No, more than some of it. Just listening to it, and to Matt and I discuss the Odyssey, and make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and leave comments sharing your thoughts, especially your favorite Nolan movie as well. And if you like to see more content from me, I post short movie reviews on this YouTube channel, as well as TikTok and Instagram. And my out-of-theater reactions, including the one I did for the Odyssey, are around a minute. the next live stream that I do will probably be next Saturday. Please let me know what other topics you want to see me cover next in the comments below. And Matt, is there anything you'd like to plug real quick?
I am at Krugenauts on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. I don't have a whole lot of content right now. I'm gonna just throw that out there right now, but I'm working on trying to get the ball rolling and getting something out there soon. Thank you for having me on here, though. This was my first chance to really give my plug out there and be on camera to discuss something with somebody else. So thank you for giving me that opportunity. This was fun. I can't wait to do this again.
No worries. Yeah, Matt's gonna be coming on again soon for Spider-Man talk.
Yeah, I'm very excited for that one.
He's a big comic book guy who knows a lot of it more in and out than I do. So he's gonna have a lot to say there.
Yeah, that world is more my bread and butter. So I may have a lot more to say on that show. And I'm doing a lot of stuff like building up to Spider-Man. Like I'm replaying the Insomniac game. I'm reading the Brand New Day era. And then I also just started watching the animated Spectacular Spider-Man show because I've never seen that before. But my girlfriend always told me that that was super, super incredible growing up watching it. So, and I'm loving it so far. So we will have a lot of Spider-Man to discuss.
For sure. So people can look forward to that in a couple weeks. But for now, both of us have got to say bye.
You got to say bye.
Bye, everyone.